Ontario school boards have been undertaking information gathering sessions through classroom surveys that ask students of very young ages very inappropriate sexualized questions, and it's largely being done without parental knowledge or their consent. Tamara Ugolini here with Rebel News, bringing you two different school surveys to be on the lookout for if you are a concerned Ontario parent with a child or children in the socialized school system. One is referred to as a student census, and the other is a school climate survey. And they don't mean climate as in global warming or this alarmist death narrative, but rather the general school environment and how everyone feels while in the classroom and at school. All of this reporting came from a viewer tip who shared with me that certain school boards were soliciting the gender, identity, and sexual orientation of children as young as grades 4 in a data collection initiative undertaken at school. Originally, I had wanted to know just how much this kind of program was costing Ontario taxpayers, and spoiler alert, it was roughly $2.5 million. So I had filed an access to information request, also called an ATIP, which you can support and find out more at rebelinvestigates.com. But now this ATIP has turned into a campaign with a petition, an email blast that calls on Ontario's Education Minister Stephen Lecce to investigate this sexualization of children and end the inappropriate line of questioning and data collection of children in their classrooms. You can support this work and follow along at stopclassroomgrooming.com, because I've discovered through email communications within that previous ATIP response that the line of questioning about gender identity and sexual orientation was explicitly meant to be sent home for parents and guardians to complete on behalf of their children or the students. But the school boards bypassed the parental protection in place. They have instead implemented these ever so slightly differently worded surveys and conducted this massive information gathering exercise unbeknownst to parents and guardians in the classroom. It's sneaky, it's inappropriate, and I've discovered all of this as my investigation continues. So the first survey is called the Student Census, which is developed and implemented by the Division of the Ministry of Education, referred to as the Education Equity Secretariat, that is responsible for overseeing at-risk students and ensuring that they reach their full potential. Then there's the School Climate Survey, which is developed and implemented by the Indigenous Education and Wellbeing Division that is dedicated to, you guessed it, equity. That's what Equity Secretariat Patrick Case told me during our phone conversation, a separate report that you can check out. I'll link to it in the written component of this report.
One thing is ministry intention. The other thing is how things get exercised at a local level. So I can't swear to what each of the 72 boards might have done. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But if it's the school climate survey that we're speaking about, then that may be handled differently. And that's in the Indigenous Education and Wellbeing Division of the ministry that handles that.
I see. Okay, it's quite convoluted.
It all sounds incredibly complicated, but we're actually trying to, over the next couple of years or so, bring these things together to make it a whole lot more rational, right? But the school climate survey started before the census, the student census, and they actually captured different things. One of them is more focused on student anecdotal accounts of their experiences, and then the other one is more numeric. The one that's administered by my office is more numeric.
Yet the two surveys appear to be mostly interchangeable, but I've received tips that the student census survey, which again was supposed to go home to be completed by parents of students in grades 4 to 12, was instead completed in the classroom and, in many instances, unbeknownst to parents. As per the school climate survey, the forms that went home, as is the case as the one that came home to me as a parent, tried to say that the school climate survey is required by the Ministry of Education. But it appears that that wasn't necessarily the case because I called the Ministry of Education to find out. Here's how that went.
It's a voluntary survey that's district school board, so there are 72 in Ontario, that they were encouraged, or excuse me, the message was to encourage families to fill out the voluntary climate survey.
So the survey was meant to be sent home.
Well, I mean, there would be a student survey and there would be a climate survey. It could be in two, yeah.
So there are two separate surveys kind of enmeshed in one, or
No, it would be two. Um, the school climate survey asks student parents and school staff for their opinion on key areas.
and then
He's
these.
not in a position, we don't have jurisdiction to contact the school board and say, we don't like the way you interpreted our direction. We don't have that jurisdiction. We can't say to them, your timeline was not adequate here.
So I asked one board if there was no actual requirement from the ministry, then how was this survey to be delivered? Was it supposed to go home to parents and guardians to be completed with their guidance and oversight? Or was it to be completed in the classroom as it was, with many parents left in the dark about the contents of the survey and perhaps even unaware that it was happening at all? Here's what one school board had to say to me in response.
The goal was to try and get a high response rate. And if to take it home to have students complete it at home, the response rate would likely have been a lot lower just because of, lack of technology at home, that kind of thing. The climate survey is something that the ministry has us do every year. And maybe it's not. It's may not be mandated, but it's good information for your school board to have because it gives the school board kind of a look at um, their school population, right? The goal of that is, like, the whole survey is uh, supposed to help the school board gain information again about the climate of our school population. So, for example, if you identify as female and there are other questions on there about mental health, about bullying, it can help identify maybe at a certain school that there seems to be, several bullying or situations happening with female, for example. So it just helps identify maybe as problem areas that we can address. But again, I do know we are looking to get a high response rate because obviously you could do, we're looking for data, right? Raw data. So if we don't get the response rate, we're not going to get a clear picture of our school population, of the, climate of our school environment. So I believe that is the purpose for the in classroom. I am not aware of the ministry mandating that it had to be done in the classroom.
So they intentionally conducted this particular survey in the classroom in an attempt to solicit a high response rate from inconspicuous children. And when I kept asking questions about it and expressing concern, the level of annoyance seemed only to increase. Let's continue.
Again, to me, it comes down to opinion. So you're saying that that's not an appropriate question for grade 4 to answer. Our board, our senior team may not feel the same way as you, right? Everybody has differing opinions. So you're telling me, like I said, I'll give the feedback to, and she will take it back to the senior team for future discussion in a couple of years' time if we need to provide more information to parents about the survey.
Why do the opinions of the senior team at the school board supersede that of parents? Regardless, this is a massive information harvesting exercise, and it's planting seeds in the impressionable and imaginative minds of children at perversely young ages, at ages when they shouldn't have a care in the world about their gender identity or their identity politics, or have the slightest clue about who they're attracted to sexually. It's weird and grotesque, and what does any of this have to do with delivering education? Does the school really need to know this information to deliver educational services to students? And regardless, is it inappropriate? And parents, Have you been consulted on any of this? Are you aware that this is happening to varying degrees at your child's school right now? And are you okay with it? If you're not, sign our petition. Send an email blast to Minister Stephen Lecce at stopclassroomgrooming.com and let him know too. For Rebel News, I'm Tamara Ugolini. The bloated bureaucracy needs to hear from you, and that's exactly why I've launched this campaign at stopclassroomgrooming.com. Children need the parents and the adults in their lives to advocate for them. So if you think that this is wrong and would like to see it come to an end, then check out our campaign, sign our petition, and send an email at stopclassroomgrooming.com.